Hi, I'm Jeff Walters, and welcome to The Minutes. And thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes for the week of April the 14th, 2025. This is a City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this past week. You can find The Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel and our website, thunderbay.ca/The Minutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. On this episode, I'll have a rundown of what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this past week, as well an interview with Devon McCloskey, the manager of planning with the city. We'll hear about some new things the planning department can now do without council's input. We'll hear how this can impact development throughout Thunder Bay. But first, City Council started off with a public meeting last night for some planning matters. The first planning matter on the agenda was to allow a garden suite on a lot at Loch Road. The zoning bylaw needed to be changed to allow this to happen. The Planning Act allows garden suites to be built and kept for up to 20 years. A garden suite is a temporary, self-contained home located on the same lot as a primary home. A garden suite has to be built after the main home is completed. In this case, the land is vacant, and the party that wants to build the garden suite notes they will build the primary home first. Planning Services says that this additional suite is consistent with provincial policies and recommends approval. The lot is in a rural area, and garden suites are permitted. No public comments were received on this planning change prior to the council meeting. Council approved the zoning bylaw to allow the garden suite. Another planning matter at council on Monday night involving a property at 1091 Central Avenue. There were 9 speakers on this matter, some of which were for and some of which were against this proposal. There was also written commentary, which was presented as part of the report from the administration. It had 79 public comments. Again, some were for and some were against the project. At the meeting, council was asked to approve some site-specific changes to the zoning bylaw. This would allow for a motor vehicle service use, make the maximum floor area for a storefront in a retail warehouse 15,500 meters square, widen the driveway to 9.5 meters, and to decrease the minimum landscaping to 15% of the lot area. The application received by Planning Services states that the retail warehouse would be 15,049.5 square meters, that's half a square meter from the maximum size allowed. The property at the corner of Golf Links Road and Central Avenue is 7.7 hectares in size. Planning Services says public consultation has been done, as is required with the Planning Act. Concerns over traffic, land use compatibility, and environmental impacts should be addressed through what is called site plan control. Administration recommended moving forward with this application as it conforms to provincial policies, the zoning bylaw, and the official plan. The property itself for this development is irregular in shape. It's bounded by Central Avenue, Golf Links Road, and Innovation Drive. There is an existing home on the property, while the remainder of the land is vacant. The application itself is to make the driveway bigger, have that larger floor space, and allow for a gas bar to be on the property. Planning Services notes that the application will provide employment and positively contribute to social equity and quality of life for people of all ages, abilities, and incomes. The report from Planning Services notes that the site design can be refined through site plan control to deal with any impacts. It's also noted that this location is served by transit and a multi-use trail. The piece of property is zoned as industrial, and more specifically as business area and light industrial. Planning Services that the lands in this area are intended to be used for a wide range of businesses, including light industrial, manufacturing, warehousing, and office space. The official plan notes that putting commercial businesses in these industrial areas made sense when it complements the industrial uses in the area. The city also encourages regional warehousing and expects this development to have a regional draw. Council approved the zoning for this project. Also at the public planning meeting, Council got a memo regarding a report first brought to Council at the end of February. That report had a recommendation to not approve the creation of 2 new lots at 2775 Oliver Road. At that meeting in February, administration noted that the creation of the additional lots was not consistent with the official plan or the provincial policy statement and does not support sustainable land use or cost-effective development. At that time, Council agreed with the applicant's rationale that the proposed development of the 2 lots would maintain the rural character of the area, it represents infill and does not need any new services, has a limited impact on agricultural operations in the area, and that water quality and quantity in the area would not be impacted. Administration gave Council a resolution that allows for the lots to be created. through the consent to sever process. Some of the conditions in the resolution include completing an environmental impact assessment, an archaeological assessment, as well as a well interference test. Council approved the creation of the 2 lots. A few announcements on Monday night. Councillor Brian Hamilton will host a McKellar Ward meeting on April the 16th at the Slovak Legion. It will start at 7 p.m. As well, Councillor Dominic Pastorino will have a Northwood Ward meeting on April 30th. That is a date change. It'll take place at 7 o'clock at the Kinsman Centre on James Street. And Councillor Kristen Oliver will host a Westfort Ward meeting on May the 14th. It will start at 7 p.m. take place at the West Thunder Community Centre. The city will also host a town hall in May, allowing the public to come and meet city administration. The event is an open house. It will take place on Tuesday, May the 13th, running from 6:30 until 8 p.m. It will take place at the West Thunder Community Centre. Councillor Aiello also mentioned that there is a chat with the chief. It features Police Chief Darcy Fleury. It will take place at the Boys and Girls Club building on Windsor Street on April the 22nd. That's a Tuesday. It will start at 6:30 p.m. City Manager John Collin had a couple of announcements as well. He noted that there will be an essay contest. It stems from the Growth Task Force. The winner will have their essay published at the beginning of the city's growth plan, as well as potentially in other municipal documents. Runners-up will be quoted in the growth plan. There will be 3 different divisions. The topic is What Made Thunder Bay Great? More details on the contest will be announced shortly. It was also announced that Mani Chakabi, a member of the Indigenous Advisory Council, won the Canada Reads 2025 contest for her book, A Two-Spirit Journey. As well, before the meetings kicked off, Council started off its night with a dinner with the Indigenous Advisory Committee. It was the Terms of Reference ratification ceremony and feast. Members of Council, the Indigenous Advisory Committee, and the city's executive leadership team was there. The event included opening remarks, ratification, a prayer, and a feast. There were 2 conflicts of interest brought forward this week at Council. Councillor Oliver declared a conflict over the Green Development Standards deputation, as her employer funds projects associated with green development. Councillor Trini declared a conflict on a funding resolution, as she is a board member of one of the groups to receive funding from the city. And Council also ratified its decision from April 8th regarding the James Whalen Tugboat. There were some clarifying questions regarding whether another proposal received via email on disposal of the vessel. Administration looked into the offer that was received via email and determined it was not feasible. The decision to recycle the boat proceeded. Council heard a deputation on Monday night about the city's green development standards. About 36 letters of support from various institutions, businesses, and people were presented to Council. The deputation from Dr. Margaret Woods, a retired physician, and John Stevenson, an architect. They are members of the Thunder Bay Climate Transition Collaborative. The group is looking to make Thunder Bay a more sustainable place to live. The deputation asked for Council to look at creating green development standards which promote sustainable design aimed at reducing greenhouse gases. The standards would require the development of buildings and sites to meet higher standards than the provincial building code. The group referred to the city's net zero strategy as a starting point, noting that the strategy says that the green development standard is needed to meet climate goals. The group says that buildings are the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Thunder Bay, being nearly a third of calculated greenhouse gases. The group notes it has already met with Mayor Boschkoff and other members of city administration. There was a referral on this item to report back in 2 years, that's the second quarter of 2027, with the feasibility of introducing green development standards in Thunder Bay. Council also heard 2 deputations this week regarding the temporary village. Last week, Council chose a location for the village on Cumberland Street, on a piece of vacant land behind the Salvation Army's Journey to Life Centre. One of the deputations was in favor of the location. Another showed opposition or concerns about the Cumberland Street location. One was written and one was in person. There was also a third deputation slated but was withdrawn. Now, during the ratification of the April 7th minutes of Council, there was a request to revote on the amended motion from April 7th, which effectively moved the village location to Cumberland Street. That revote lost, at which time the main motion was back on the floor. A referral was then put to the floor, asking administration to do a comprehensive review of both the LRCA lands on Fort William Road and the Cam River Heritage Park. Administration will bring back its recommendation on those one of 2 sites on April the 28th. Also coming out of City Council at the request of Council at ratification, Council requested a revote on the Council Composition Committee recommendation. The amendment, as proposed last week, would have created a council with 6 at-large members, a mayor, and 4 ward councillors using the redrawn ward boundaries. The revote has the same result as last week, which was a loss. Councillor Gertuga put forward another amendment on the floor for 9 at-large councillors, 1 mayor, and 1 deputy mayor, and that also lost. Finally, Council voted on the Council Composition Committee's recommendation again, which was 2 at-large councillors, 8 ward councillors representing 4 wards, and a mayor, and that also lost. Following ratification of the Council Composition Report, there is no change to Council, and that will all remain status quo. Council approved some initial changes to how planning matters will be decided upon in Thunder Bay. The policy that allows for delegation of authority was changed by Council, meaning that official plan amendments, including minor zone and bylaw amendments, consents, and subdivision approvals, will soon be done by the Manager of Planning Services. The goal is to make development approvals faster, increase efficiency for city administration, and provide better customer service. Other municipalities in Ontario have delegated this work from Council to administration. The changes to the minor zone and bylaw amendments, including removing a holding symbol, introducing a holding symbol, creating a temporary use bylaw or extending that bylaw, and doing housekeeping updates. It also includes granting consent, which includes lot severances, lot additions, boundary adjustments, registering easements, and registering leases longer than 21 years, and approving subdivisions when all of the other official plan and zone and bylaw terms are met. The report to Council notes that this would allow Council and the Committee of Adjustment to focus on more intensive, strategic, or impactful decisions. More areas that could be delegated to administration could also be brought forward in the future. The report also says that administration will come up with a process on how to refer matters to Council or the Committee of Adjustment if there's issues with the application conforming to the zoning bylaw or the official plan. Council approved some funding to local service agencies this week. A resolution was needed to officially enter into agreements with the Lakehead Social Planning Council, Food Action Network of Northwestern Ontario, and Age Friendly Thunder Bay. These groups help administer the Poverty Reduction Strategy, Food Action Network, and Age Friendly Thunder Bay. In total, about $120,000 of funding is provided to these strategies. Council approved some changes to some capital work this year. It's because the construction of a roundabout on Cumberland Street and the replacement of underground infrastructure cost about $1.1 million more than budgeted. To pay for the work, administration recommended moving the funding for work slated for Lucy Court as well as Yonge Street to the Cumberland Street job. The reallocation of the funds is a higher payoff, administration says, based on the pavement management system and replacing 100-plus-year-old pipes that are underground. The work on Lucy Court and Yonge Street will take place in the future. It should be noted there were also some other planning matters on the agenda on Monday night. Council approved a draft plan of subdivision for another 3 years. The subdivision, Mountainview Estates, is at 1811 Mountain Road. The 69-lot subdivision was first approved in 2022. The current owner of the land is working to comply with conditions and intends to complete the subdivision. The approval for the subdivision will lapse if the extension was not granted. The owner now has until April the 14th of 2028 to comply with the approvals needed to get the subdivision agreement finalized. Should be noted there was one item removed from the outstanding list this week. In April of last year, Council asked the Downtown Fort William Revitalization Committee to review its terms of reference and that administration review the necessity of the committee. The committee received updates in March of this year on projects and priorities that align with the revitalization plan, including the progress of the Victoriaville project, community safety and well-being programs, and housing accelerator supports. The committee reviewed its terms of reference and concluded that its terms are relevant. At this point, there are no other changes to the committee. However, Council is currently reviewing its governance structure, and that includes a review of advisory committees. The committee itself will not have any changes made, but its review, though, has been taken off of the outstanding list. And finally, Council received a notice of motion at its meeting this week. The notice comes from Councillor Michael Zassino, asking Council to amend a resolution ratified in August of last year. The resolution relates to the Thunder Bay Public Library and its Master Facilities Operating Plan. The notice of motion would allow the library to terminate its lease at its branch in County Fair Mall, maintain the existing branches at Brodie Street, Waverley Street, and the Mary J.L. Black Library in Westfort, and would add investment to have the library create a new branch at Inner City Mall with a size of 24,000 square feet. The Inner City branch would be in a different location than previously mentioned. The notice of motion to council states that the landlord at Intercity is willing to provide some financial support to renovate the space for the new location. It would be about $1.375 million, or 25% of the cost from the landlord. The remaining $2 million could come from the city and the library. An additional $723,000 would be needed, and that could come from the Renew Thunder Bay Reserve Fund. Zassino says, as a library board member, he can see the value of the intercity location. Council does not debate the actual notice of motion when it's first presented. It's just to let Council know that this matter will be debated at a future meeting. In this case, that's April the 28th. And that's a wrap as to what happened at Council this week. For more information on anything that happens at Council, please visit our website, thunderbay.ca/council. It's called Delegation of Authority, and it gives city administration the ability to do something. Delegation of authority generally means that instead of every decision going through City Council, City staff can make a decision and go ahead with it instead of bringing these decisions to City Council. The idea is that it makes Council meetings shorter and more efficient. Now, the city's planning division had some delegation changes last night, and we'll learn what this means for development going forward in Thunder Bay. Devon McCloskey is the manager of planning with the city. Devon, thanks for coming into the Minute Studio today.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning.
Yeah, great. Glad that you could be here today. Let's start with the basics. What is delegation of authority? It's a term that most people probably don't really know what it means.
Well, it's essentially the transfer of responsibility. In the context of planning, it's the transfer of responsibilities for the approval of certain planning applications.
And what would those planning applications be?
It's a relatively long list, but it is essentially applications that are brought to council on a routine basis. They're seen to be more simple. They follow existing policy and regulations. So we're talking about things like consents, holding symbol placements and removals, as well as temporary use bylaws. Those are all considered to be minor bylaws. And then we're also seeking the authority for subdivision approval.
Okay. There's two things that you said there that I'm interested in. One is a holding symbol and the other one being a consent. Can you explain to me what those things are?
Sure. So a holding symbol is a tool that the Planning Act has offered to be able to essentially make a conditional approval possible. So they're used in situations where there may be a premature sort of application coming forward. The city is aware that there are certain things that would need to take place in order to be able to proceed with development, like a remediation of a site, certain studies like a noise study or an environmental site assessment, environmental natural heritage studies. All of those sorts of things for holding symbol removals could be put on place. And then for consent, a consent is it's a statutory term. It essentially is the process by which planning authorities are able to do lot severances for lot creation or lot addition, easements, and leases.
So essentially, I guess it's fair to say like consents have to do with making a lot bigger or smaller. Is that kind of a generic way to put it almost?
It could be used for that. But it can also be used for lot creation. So you could do like a mini subdivision. So you would have the opportunity to create lots for more housing development, for example. Okay.
And then the holding symbol is something where you're approving it, but you're saying, but before we give you the final stamp, you got to do something. Here's what you got to do. Like, is that a holding? That's a good example?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Cool. People don't know planning terms, right? So we got to make sure that this is understandable. With the decision that happened from council this week, this consent that we're going for, these delegation changes that we're going for, how does this change what we do in Thunder Bay?
It's going to have a pretty big change just in the timelines for where we are able to process applications. So we're talking about anywhere from 30 to 60 days for an application that would normally be going to council for approval, and a matter of weeks for applications that would be going to the Committee of Adjustment. those timelines are pretty drastic when it comes to a developer or a property owner seeking an approval. We've got a short building season, so we feel that this is going to put Thunder Bay in a better position to be more development ready. It's customer service focused, so faster approvals. That means a lot to the development community.
So that's now the end goal, is to speed up how we can do these things.
That's right. Yeah.
What do other municipalities do when it comes to this delegation of authority?
It varies. Many municipalities are starting to look to streamline their development approval processes, and it appears that those who, once they take this look and they do a deeper dive into what opportunities may be out there, they all come out with some kind of a delegation of approval process. It varies in the items and the extent to which they choose to do this. There is some interpretation of the legislation to what constitutes minor. So many municipalities have started doing this. So it's really about using the tools that have been made available by the legislation.
And then there's this other group that you mentioned actually already, Committee of Adjustment. How does this have an impact on them?
Sure. The Committee of Adjustment has the delegated approval from Council to consider applications for minor variance to the zoning bylaw. So those are applications where a developer or a property owner would be seeking some kind of relief from the zoning bylaw provisions. So it could be relief from the lot coverage requirements, the setback requirements, building gross floor area size, things like that. And the Committee of Adjustment also considers applications for consent. So those applications that are deemed to be more routine, so they're very straightforward, they're meeting the lot size requirements of the zoning bylaw. If it's an area that's been established and recognized as an area that could be further intensified, then we would see those as being more straightforward types of approvals that could come directly to administration for approval. So those would no longer go to the Committee of Adjustment. Okay,
so probably fewer things going to Committee of Adjustment as well.
Yeah, that's right. And they meet monthly. Some of those agendas are jam-packed. We've seen applications as many as 10 to 12, at the high peak of the development season. So this will help them to have less items on their agendas, and of course, again, just making those approvals faster for the applicant.
And what's going to be the impact? And I know there's a little bit of crystal ball in here in this question, but what's the impact going to be on growth, or how does it help growth for Thunder Bay?
Well, we see with the faster approvals, just last year we looked at what type of applications were going forward. There was about 30 applications that would no longer have to be going to Council or the Committee of Adjustment. And with that, just the timelines, being more growth ready, and offering better customer service, we think that positions us really well for growth.
30 is a significant number.
It is.
Yeah. That really is. Yeah, 30 projects that could be done. I won't say with a snap of the fingers, but faster at least, right? Yeah. Devon, I really appreciate you coming in today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
That's Devon McCloskey. She is the manager of planning at Thunder Bay, and she joined me today in the Minutes studio. And a big thanks for listening to the Minutes this week. Of course, if you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, visit thunderbay.ca/council. If you want to listen to past episodes or maybe provide some feedback, check out our website, thunderbay.ca/theminutes. You can also find the Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, plus you can find us on YouTube and on our website as well. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, just hit that subscribe button. I'm Jeff Walters. Thanks for listening this week. We'll chat again next week. Make it a great day.